दैतं तस्य बदर्याश्रम मंडलम सोहम तद्दर्शनालाद योगात्रियुत प्रभो गमिष्ये दैतं तस्य बदर्याश्रममण्डलम् सोहम तद्दर्शनालाद योगार्तियुतः प्रभो गमिष्ये दैतं तस्य बदर्याश्रममण्डलम् सोहम तद्दर्शनालाद वियोगार्तियुतः प्रभो गमिष्ये दैतं तस्य बदर्याश्रममण्डलम् सोहम तद्दर्शनाह्लाद वियोगार्तियुतः प्रभो गमिष्ये दैतं तस्य बदर्याश्रममण्डलम्. Please repeat. प्रभो
Soham taddarshanahlada yogatiyutah prabhu gamishe daitam tasya varirashamamandalam
Soham taddarshanahlada yogatiyutah prabhu gamishe daitam tasya varirashamamandalam Soham taddarshanahlada Vyogartiyutah Prabhu Gamishe Daitam Tasya Bhadrayashrama Mandalam
the men? No? Mataji's?
Soham tad darshanahlada Viyogati yutah Prabhu Namishedayitam tasya Bharirashrama mandalam.
Saham,
Aham,
that's myself.
that's myself.
Tat,
Tat,
his. Darshana,
darshana,
audience.
audience.
Ahalada,
Ahada,
pleasure.
pleasure.
Yoga,
Yoga,
without that.
without that.
Arti yutaha,
Arti yutaha,
afflicted by distress.
afflicted by distress.
Prabho,
Prabho,
my dear sir.
my dear sir,
Jamishye,
Vishye
shall go.
shall go.
Daityam,
Daitam,
so instructed.
so instructed.
Tasya,
Tasya,
his.
is.
Badrashrama,
Ashrama,
Badrika Ashrama
Badrika Ashrama,
in the Himalayas.
in the Himalayas.
Mandalam,
Mandalam,
association.
association.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Prabhupada.
My dear Vidura, now I'm mad for want of pleasure of seeing him. Just to mitigate this, I'm now proceeding to Badrika Ashrama in the Himalayas for association, as I have been instructed by him. Purport. A pure devotee of the Lord of the standard of Uddhava constantly associates with the Lord in the double perception of simultaneous separation and meeting. The pure devotee is not for a moment unengaged in the trance of loving service of the Lord. Execution of the Lord's service is the main occupation of the pure devotee. Uddhava's separation from the Lord was unbearable, and therefore he started to Badrika Ashrama in obedience to the Lord's order, because the order of the Lord and the Lord himself are identical. As long as one is engaged in the execution of order of the Lord, there is no factual separation from him. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ulimitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shiyatapatakavanam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangsha Shri Rupam Sagar Chatam Sagana Raghunathan Vatam Tam Sajivam Sadhvitam Savadatam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Leta Shri Vijakanvitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinavanda Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanda Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavane Suri Bhrishivanusite Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Panchakapatarubhesha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Vatale Shrimate Bhakti Vikasa Swami Tanavane Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Vatale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tanavane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharya Nirvisesa Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jnananandamaya Devam Nirvam Spatikakritam Adharam Sarva Vidyanam Hayagrivam Upasmahe. Guru Vaishnava Bhagavan Tinere Smarana Hoy Vigna Vinashana Nayasya Hay Nija Vanchita Puranam. Okay, so continuing, this is too loud, is it? No, it's okay. So continuing discussing the conversation here between Vidura and Uddhava as we progress on to Vidura approaching Maitreya. So here, Uddhava is, the mood and attitude of Uddhava is displayed. It's quite interesting because Uddhava is a very dear friend of the Lord, known as a cousin brother also. And so here, in the next verse, actually, in the next few verses, while Uddhava, the chief and most confidential amongst the devotees of the Lord, was going away, Vidura is affectionate and confidently questioned him. So, Uddhava is obviously going to Badrika Ashrama to go and follow the instructions of the Lord. Now, the mood and attitude that we see here of Uddhava in relationship with Krishna is that of little more of awe and reverence than friendship here. Because we see just the verse before, I have studied the path of understanding self-knowledge from my spiritual master, the personality of Godhead, and thus circumambulating him, I have come to this place very much aggrieved due to separation. Thank you. So, Uddhava's particular mood and display of his rasa is in the mood and attitude of more awe and reverence here. And we see the particular philosophy being described here by Srila Prabhupada of Achinta Veda Veda Tattva, the oneness and difference at the same time, in terms of the rasa or the mood or the separation from Krishna that is taking place. This is really quite amazing, Prabhupada writes, this double perception of simultaneous perception, separation and meeting between the two personalities, Uddhava and Krishna. So this rasa, there's this transcendental rasa that is going on between the devotee of the Lord and the Lord. There's always a transcendental exchange of love going on. As we see here, that Uddhava is saying, I'm mad for the want of pleasure of seeing him. The devotee of the Lord is always constantly trying to see Krishna. Obviously, Uddhava is a pure devotee of the Lord. There's no, as Srila Prabhupada later in the purport says, there's no question of Uddhava not seeing Krishna, but the separation that Uddhava feels in his heart practically seems like that he's not able to see him or he's not fortunate enough to see Krishna. So these rasas are there in order to enhance the pastimes of the Lord, in order to attract the devotee more, to develop more affection for him, even on the transcendental platform. And we see that there's these different rasas are there. And Srila Prabhupada comments in the Krishna book and also is in the Nectar of Devotion that those relationships take place according to the level of affection. They are complete in themselves, but they're ever expanding. So the level of affection that is displayed by the particular individual devotee towards Krishna is the relationship. So we see that the neutral devotees, the Shanta rasas, their level of affection is at that level, although it is perfect in itself. It's one and not different, you could say in that sense, it's spiritually different, but it's complete in itself. That's Shanta ras. And then you've got the Dasya ras of servant, and then you've got the Sakhya ras, which Uddhava, and then we've got the, why am I forgetting the parental, Vatsalya, and then we've got Madhurya. So the Prabhupada comments that the level of affection is greater in each one. Although in themselves they're also complete, not that one is less than the other. So here we see this transcendental affection with Vidura with Uddhava, where these relationships also have their varieties within them. Even though Uddhava is particularly situated within the Sakhya ras, we see him seeing Krishna as a spiritual master, which is Dasya ras. So it is included within that. Srila Prabhupada writes like that also. Like on the highest, you could say highest, the Madhurya ras, all of these others are included. So we see here with the Sakhya ras of Uddhava is there, but then his Dasya mood of service to the spiritual master, he's seeing Krishna as his spiritual master, no longer as his friend that he just plays in Vrindavan with. So this awe and reverence is there, and that rasa is taking place, and that is the mood that Uddhava is continuing in here. And so even we see within the material world that rasa is desired by us, and therefore we go on worshipping so many different persons in this world. And whereas Uddhava has that Sakhya ras, we always want that higher level of affection with someone, just like even we may have people that we look up to in life, whatever they may be, the motivational gurus, or they may be great singers or great artists or actors and such. Our relationship with them often from the beginning is in the mood of awe and reverence, but that always wants to become friendship. You always imagine to become friends with this person, want to develop more affection. But the material rasa and the spiritual rasa are very different. They're like night and day, you could say. They're completely different in its nature. Because in the relationship with Krishna, there is exchange of love, whereas with the material rasa that is going on, that exchange of love of the worshipper and the object of worship is often completely different, that there is no real exchange, and there may be some exchange, some temporary exchange, say that you may come in meeting with someone, but then that exchange of love disappears eventually with time. So time separates. Or just like you may worship a superstar and you go and see them, but there's no rasa. Rasa means two. It's just one way. It's directed in one way. And so it's not satisfying to the individual living entity, because that rasa we desire is of two ways, of the Lord reciprocation with the Lord, constant reciprocation, not just that it comes with this body and ends with this body, just like we may have had so many superstars that we were fond of when we were younger. For those whatever, you may have had singers or rappers that you looked up to, or those who played cricket, or from India, Sachin Tendulkar, and all of these people were there, and we used to look up to and look at their janma karma chame divya. No, it's not divyam, but that their prakrita, their material birth, look at it and worship it, understand it, study about it. But one who knows this is not that he became liberated, but it actually was disappointing, because once they finished playing their game, their pastimes, then it is no longer relishable. I mean, you try to keep going back and watch the same games and watch the highlights and do all of these things, but after a certain point it becomes unrelishable, or it's not to be relished. Therefore, we have to switch the person that we worship, right? You worship Sachin Tendulkar now, and now it's Virat Kohli. Right? Before it was Sachin Tendulkar, now it's Virat Kohli. And then in the future it's someone else. He knows. Most of you don't know. Or maybe, I don't know. Basketball, everybody knows basketball. Before it was Kobe Bryant, now it's LeBron James. I don't know who that is now. Maybe his son. I saw that we were walking by on Harinam, and anyways, now his son is also playing the same game as him. He's old. But anyways, the point is that there is the worshipper and there is the object of worship. And the nature of this material world is that the object of our worship is always changing. So this bhakti, love or devotion, is actually never fixed, because it's always changing. It's always changing from one person to another. So that rasa that we're trying to cultivate means that it's not satisfying. It's not satisfying, because if it was satisfying, you'd be able to watch whatever your best basketball player on TV, or Michael Jordan. Let's say everybody loved Michael Jordan, right? Whatever but we couldn't. Nobody watches him now. Nobody probably knows his name anymore so much. Maybe if you're really into basketball, you know the greats of basketball. But it's not that people keep on watching his matches, or keep wearing his shoes, or keep him on their wall. They have to change, because there's no rasa there actually. There's no relationship. There's not satisfying. We see Uddhava saying, "Well, I want the pleasure of seeing him," but after some time, if you've been worshiping Michael Jordan, you see him every day, and it's like, yeah, whatever. And it's like whatever. It doesn't really make a difference. So the abhyavachari bhakti, which is intrinsic to the living entity, which is meant to be a one-pointed attention towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when it is taken with this, it becomes vyabhichari bhakti, because it is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead that we desire to worship. Therefore, it is not satisfying to us. Therefore, it does not mitigate the distress of material life. And therefore, the living entity is always going on worshipping one idol of this world after another, seeking where that pleasure will be. Therefore, basketball, and then we find someone else is greater in baseball, and then we take on baseball. Often you'll see that those who take on a particular activity, they're inspired by someone else's activity. That's a fact of this world, that you only take up a particular, you play basketball because you saw, Michael Jordan was great like this, and that mood of being worshipped is also there, that I want to be worshipped like that, or what a great personality, I want his qualities. Or you may become a great pilot because your father was a pilot, or you've known that pilots do a great job, or this, whatever, a doctor, a humanitarian, a philanthropist. So we often take up different activities even within our lives by the influence of other great personalities, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, that yad yad acharya, how does it go? Yad yad acharya sreshtas. That, huh? Okay, so I don't know the rest of the verse. But that one follows in the footsteps of those great personalities. What a great personality does, the common men follow. So we often confuse that with that is the ultimate object of our worship, and that will satisfy us. By having the paraphernalia of Michael Jordan, that will satisfy us. By having the shirt, by having his memorabilia, such and such, by going to whatever they have memorabilia, you can go and see all of his trophies and all of that things. But it's factually seen that since the object of worship is always changing, it is not particularly satisfying. And when those activities of that person that we are worshipping end, then that rasa or that rasa that we were experiencing before by watching them play or do certain activities is no longer also experienced by watching the same old thing. So that is the nature of material existence, that the real rasa, the real exchange of loving mellows that we would like in a devotional attitude, in a loving attitude, is not actually available to us in this world. Whereas we see, and that, okay, in this material world, the separation from someone is quite painful because there's never a meeting again. Well, there is sometimes a meeting again, but it's not particularly, at the ultimate end of it, as somebody leaves their body, you may miss them, but you can never have their association again. So then that, you move on from that relationship, you forget about that relationship. Or it can be very painful, just pain, no real pleasure. But we see the pure devotees of the Lord, as Srila Prabhupada begins this whole purport with, their standard of the pure devotee of the Lord, of the standard of Uddhava, constantly associate with the Lord, with double perception of simultaneous separation and meeting. That is the difference of material and spiritual. That Krishna is not different from his holy names. Krishna is not different from his the forms that we see in the temple, not different from his picture, not different from his devotional service, as Srila Prabhupada makes the point that the order is not different from the Lord, the devotional service, the meeting of the Lord. So, Uddhava, what is the standard of Uddhava? What is the pure devotional standard of Uddhava? What does Krishna say in the 11th canto about Uddhava? How dear is Uddhava to Krishna? More than himself. You're more dear than even Balaram to me. And my spiritual master says, well, he doesn't say gopis in there, but he specifically says that you're more dear to me than myself, O Uddhava. That is the standard of the pure devotee of the Lord, of the standard of Uddhava. That is Uddhava's standard, that Krishna, he feels that Uddhava is even more dear than all of these other associates of mine. So, he associates with the Lord in this double perception of simultaneous separation and meeting, as we know from Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, that even that moment of separation feels like 12 years or more to the pure devotees. And in the Nectar Devotion, I read the Nectar Devotion some time ago, I should read it again. Looking at some of this, here, it mentions the way of meeting Krishna. When devotee meets with Krishna in great eagerness, the state of meeting is called perfection. In Krishna Karnamrita, Bilva Mangal Thakur describes how Krishna meets his devotee with peacock feather on his head, with marketed jewels on his chest, and with his ever-chanting smile, his restless eyes, and his very delicate body. So, here is described the meeting after separation. When a devotee meets Krishna after long separation, the meeting is one of satisfaction. In the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th chapter, verse 10, it is stated that when Lord Krishna returned to his capital Dwarka, the inhabitants said, "Dear Lord, if you remain in foreign countries for so long, we shall certainly be bereft of seeing your smiling face. Upon observing your face, we, your eternal servitors, become greatly satisfied. All the anxieties of existence are immediately mitigated. If we cannot see you because you are long absent from Dwarka, then it will be impossible for us to live anymore. This is an instant of satisfaction in meeting Krishna after long separation. So we can see how Krishna comes. When the devotee meets with Krishna with great eagerness, he comes with his peacock feather on his head, his marketed jewels on his chest, and his enchanting smile, his restless eyes, and his very delicate body, attracting Krishna, the one who attracting the devotees of the Lord with his beauty, with his transcendental beauty. So the meeting of the Lord is very great, but the separation of the Lord, we read from Uddhava. Uddhava, his this indifference and indifference chapter is the way of indifference and separation, is also described that the pure devotees of the Lord, they become mad when they feel this separation of the Lord. Now, if I can find it again, where's the ways of meeting? Okay. Okay, here. Let's see, sorry. It's a lot here. Okay. So when Sri Krishna left the city of Dwarka to seek out the Samantaka jewel, and he was late running home, Uddhava became so afflicted that the symptoms of disease became manifest on his body. Actually, due to his excessive ecstatic love for Krishna, Uddhava became known in Dwarka as crazy. To his great fortune, on that day, Uddhava's reputation as a crazy fellow was firmly established. Uddhava's craziness was practically proved when he went to the Raivataka hill to minutely observe the congested black clouds. In his disturbed condition, he began to pray to these clouds, and he expressed his jubilation by bowing down before them. Uddhava informed, "My dear leader of Yadu dynasty, your servant in Vrindavan cannot sleep at night thinking of you." So now they are all lying on the bank of the Yamuna, almost paralyzed, and it appears that they are almost dead because their breathing is very slow. This is an instant of becoming unconscious due to separation from Krishna. So, and then the next piece says, Krishna was once informed, "You are the life and soul of all the inhabitants of Vrindavan. So because you have left Vrindavan, all of the servitors of your lotus feet, they are suffering. It is as if the lakes filled with lotus flowers have dried up from the scorching heat of separation from you." So in the example given here, the inhabitants of Vrindavan are compared to lakes filled with lotus flowers, and because of the scorching heat of separation from Krishna, the lakes along with the lotus flowers of their lives are being burnt up, and the swans in lakes, who are compared to the vitality of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, are no longer desiring to live there. In other words, because of the scorching heat, the swans are leaving the lakes. This metaphor is used to describe the condition of devotees separated from Krishna. So this is the separation that the devotees of the Lord feel, that 12 years or more, 12 years of this right here, of dried up, scorching heat of separation. The lotus flowers dried up, and even the lakes themselves dried up. That separation, that intense feeling of separation is met with the sambhog aspect, which is the meeting with the Lord. And this is going on constantly. It is happening. A moment feels like 12 years or more, and then the next moment, by that remembrance of Krishna, they're associating with Krishna. So there's this perception, double perception of simultaneous separation and meeting with the Lord. How can you perceive this? Can we perceive it? Why? It's achinta veda veda tattva. It's imperceivable. You can't understand it. Why? Because it is on the platform of devotion. It is on the platform of bhakti. You can't understand it. It is experienced. And by trying to analyze it in some material way, one cannot understand. And Uddhava, I believe, also expresses that actually. here in the beginning of this. My dear, I have just finished a study of all kinds of philosophical books and Vedic verses about the goal of life, and so now I have little reputation for my studies. But still, in spite of my reputation, my knowledge is condemned, because although enjoying the effulgence of Vedic knowledge, I cannot appreciate the effulgence emanating from the toenail of the nails of your toes. Therefore, the sooner my pride and Vedic knowledge are finished, the better it will be. So, even by trying to logically understand it, or by trying to understand even Krishna through the Vedas, or through one's studies, one's knowledge, it does not actually will not be able to capture this understanding of this double perception of simultaneous separation and meeting. This is a very high level for those who are on the platform of the standard of Uddhava, and that is being made very clear. So the indifference and separation, or the meeting and separations of the devotees of the Lord and the Lord, it is going on simultaneously. It is going on without disturbance, and it is very pleasurable to the devotees of the Lord and the Lord Himself. It is all bliss, it is all pleasure. Because the separation, although it is very painful, it induces great pleasure, because that vipralamba bhav of separation from the Lord creates a great intensity of meeting with the Lord. Because one starts to meditate on the Lord very intensely. That one, he is always thinking of Him. That one intensely thinking of Him with this determined bhakti. So abhyabhachari bhakti, one-pointed bhakti only at the Lord. And so the particular Krishna in the 11th canto gives this, that only by practicing unalloyed devotional service with full faith in me, one can obtain me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm naturally dear to my devotees who take me as the goal of their service. By engaging in such pure devotional service, even the dog-eater can purify themselves from contamination of their low birth. So, you can stand up, David, and fallen asleep. So, the verse for this is actually, I didn't write the number down, but it starts with Bhaktyaham ekaya grahya shraddhayatma priya satam bhakti punati mannishtha sapakan abhi sambhavat. You're going to be able to find that? I can bring it up so we can look at some of these little important points that are being made here. So 11, 14, 21. Okay, so we want to look at the word for word here. So some points are being made here that the here 3 particular things are required for pure devotional service. That mananishta, that one sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the only goal of life. Shraddhaya, which means he has full faith in Him. And ekaya, that he is unmotivated in his devotional service. Krishna in this particular instance qualifies the platform of pure devotional service by these 3 things. That by having these 3 things, one can come to the platform of pure devotional service. So in the purport here, that's mentioned that all around the world, many people are born into rich and powerful families, but they often acquire abominable habits that are part of their so-called family tradition. However, even unfortunate persons who are taught from birth to engage in sinful activities can at once be purified by the potency of pure devotion service. Such service must have Lord Krishna as the only goal, mananishta, must be rendered with full faith, shraddhaya, and must be unalloyed or without any selfish motive, ekaya. So, why am I going through it like this particularly? Well, we're coming from this standard of material rasa, or this conception or perception of material rasa being this conditional thing, or it not being completely determined or unalloyed or full of faith at all, or without any selfish motive. the worshipper and the object of worship, they're both full of motive. The worshipper wants to be worshipped for himself in order to satisfy himself, and the worshipper wants to worship for the same reason, for his own self-satisfaction. But we'll see within devotional service, neither is Krishna, you could say he is the most selfish of all, but he makes the point throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam, actually my devotees are more dear than myself. So Krishna is the most selfish and the least he's the most selfless also. Because that is the nature of pure devotional service, that Krishna is purely devoted to his devotee, and the devotee is purely devoted to Krishna. So we come from this prakrita rasa, this material rasa, of seeing the object of our worship as to be completely enjoyed by us, and then the worshipper thinking that I should completely enjoy just those whoever is worshipping me. So it is a material rasa that is going on, but pure devotional service, the potency of pure devotional service is that it removes all of these ideas or false ideas or material ideas and situates us at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It brings us up, because here it says that we are even the dog eaters. We are the sambhavat, indicates jati doshat, the population of low birth. We are born amongst the lowborns. Well, we are the lowborns, not born amongst them. We are the lowborns. So since we are coming in this material conception of life, we must come to the platform of pure devotional service, or we must try to understand or engage in pure devotional service, and become purified by it. That we have, obviously, the famous verse, Atha Shri Krishna Namadi na bhavit grahayam indriyahi sevan mukhi jivado swayam eva sprithe adha. No one can understand the transcendent nature of the name, form, quality, and pastimes of Sri Krishna through his materially contaminated senses. Only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord are the transcendental name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord revealed to him. So this service of the Lord, we cannot actually understand, or we cannot understand the transcendental nature of the Lord until one engages in the service of the Lord, and that service cannot be done just with this material conception, but one must engage in transcendental service of the Lord. That means these three things, that one must have full faith, one must be situated in Krishna as the only goal of one's life, one must have shraddhaya, and one must be without any motivation, selfish motivation. As we know that anyabhilashita sunyam jnana karmadhyanavirtam anukulyana krishnanu shilanam bhaktiruttama, that one must engage in devotional service without any other motive. This being one of our key phrases that we keep dear to our heart, because we're so motivated by so many other things within our life. So it may be that our experience of this material world, this trying to enjoy in this material world in different ways, we cannot allow that to enter within the platform of devotional service. How is that done? Well, by the potency of pure devotional service. How? By seeing what is pure devotional service. By understanding pure devotional service, or being inspired by those who are practicing pure devotional service. As we're inspired by the karmis to practice so many material activities in that way, we also become inspired by the great personalities, the great acharyas, to practice pure devotional service. Therefore, we follow in the footsteps of the acharyas. So, because we're used to this material idea of life, coming into devotional service, although it is all purifying, although the activities of devotional service are all purifying, if it is not taken with a proper perspective means proper understanding of life, of devotional service, then that purification may not be complete. It's not that it doesn't purify, because hearing the holy names, chanting the holy names, before performing devotional service, that those activities in themselves intrinsically are purifying to the conditional living entity, but that purification may not be complete. It may become what we call mixed devotional service. So in that mixed devotional service, what we experience in devotional service, sometimes seemingly transcendental may also be material, or possibly the other way around, prominently material. And then there is instances of where we're experiencing Krishna consciousness, but it is not distinguished in what is material and what is spiritual. When that purification has not taken place properly, one cannot distinguish what is material feelings and what is spiritual feelings completely. He understands that the ultimate point is that it must be in relationship with Krishna, but that relationship with Krishna, or that rasa, may be mixed in his desire to enjoy materially in this world also. Because one who can see, he can identify. One who is purified, just like the pure devotees of the Lord, they can identify the different stages that another devotee is at, because they are on the platform of purity, because they are able to see beyond the material conditioning that the living entity has. So, therefore, we see here Uddhava, although he's the pastime, he's seeing himself conditionally that, oh yes, I'm fallen. He's seeing himself like that, oh, I'm bewildered by the activities of the Lord. How is this possible? He's questioning the Lord. He has his doubts. That is a particular type of rasa that is also described in the Nectar devotion. But it's seemingly that Uddhava is not fortunate, or in the sense that bewildered. But he's taking that position because he's taking that position in order to show us how to surrender to Krishna, how to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and what the result of that is. So we see here that Uddhava is completely unalloyed. He's completely fixed. His only goal of life, that is his qualification on the platform of him being the standard of pure devotee that he is that he is completely fixed. There's no other goal than Krishna. There's no other faith than what Krishna says to him. There's nothing else. And that he has no selfish motive. He follows what Krishna says. He doesn't have something to get for himself. He's not sitting here pretending to be the guru of the world to Vidura. So that is the qualification of Uddhava. And on that platform, of course, he's never fallen from that qualification. He is able to experience this simultaneous separation, meeting with the Lord. It is this transcendental rasa, it is that transcendental feeling, that is transcendental bhav that is there with the Lord in his relationship. So that is there always, of course, because we see that Uddhava is always engaged in the service of the Lord, as Srila Prabhupada makes the point, that the pure devotee is not for a moment unengaged in the transcendental service of the Lord. Execution of Lord's service is the main occupation of the pure devotee. Uddhava's separation from the Lord was unbearable, and therefore he started to Badrikashrama in obedience to the Lord's order, because the order of the Lord and the Lord himself are identical. It's interesting how there is this inconceivable separation in one as well. He was in separation, but he's following the orders of the Lord. But that is going on, that feeling of separation, unbearable separation. But the pure devotees of the Lord, they engage in the pure devotional service, and they're not for a moment unengaged, so they're always meeting with the Lord at the same time. The moment of separation feels like 12 years or more, but there's not a moment in which they are not engaged in the pure devotional service of the Lord. So they're experiencing this transcendental ecstasy. It is not at all contaminated by any sort of material rasa, any sort of feeling or any sort of material thing at all. So they are perfectly situated. But we can see in our cases, in our instances of our own lives, because of coming from such conditioning from thousands and thousands of lifetimes, even within devotional service it becomes mixed. That feeling is mixed with a desire to enjoy the holy name of the Lord, to the desire to enjoy the service of the Lord, with a desire to enjoy the name, fame, adoration we may get within devotional service. That may not be our particular motivation even in devotional service. But that is the Daivi Shakti, that is the amazing nature of Krishna's external energy that has the ability to bewilder us even when we think we're rightly situated. That there is things within our heart that we cannot see. Krishna speaks about that this external energy of mine is very difficult to overcome. This is my transcendental energy. It has the covering potency. So we don't come to, when we're inspired by those pure devotees of the Lord, like Srila Prabhupada, we may not even approach devotional service with the idea of a motivation, of taking advantage. Because we can see overall, at least within this room or within this Krishna lives, we can say within this temple, that most devotees, we've given up everything externally. We've surrendered to Krishna. We don't have our own personal ideas of life in the sense, not going and having our own ideas. We're performing devotional service on the authority of our spiritual master. But even within that, there is an unidentifiable, you could say almost, but from our own perspective, motivation to enjoy in Krishna's service. It's almost like it's unidentifiable, although the spiritual master can see it because of his purity. So how is it possible then to come up? How is it possible then to get past this idea of this material, mixing devotional service, Prakriti Rasa Shatadushani? This is particularly the book that starts to describe all of these different things of mixing devotional service with the performing devotional service of enjoyment. Because it seems like sometimes, devotional service is enjoyable. I mean, it is pleasurable for sure, because there is that, we're able to see glimpses of Krishna's transcendental nature, transcendental loving service, devotional service. But it quickly creeps in that, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, that this enjoyment mentality of the conditioned living entity has almost practically become inherent. It's like an inherent thing to be averse to Krishna. So sometimes even when we're chanting and dancing within devotional service, although it is done with praise to Krishna, or we may be distributing books, or we may be chanting, or we may be cleaning, we may be cooking, all of that is our primary idea or primary motivation to try to serve Krishna selflessly. That selfish attitude quickly creeps in. So therefore one has to be careful at all times. Therefore, trinadapi sunichena tarapi sahishnuna amanina manidina kirtaniya sadari. That one should be very careful in his endeavor, because one should always remain humble in his endeavor to chant the holy name, because if he's not humble, he'll try to enjoy the holy name. Instead of trying to perform service to the holy name, he will try to enjoy the holy name. And then enjoyment mentality hits again. And then one becomes puffed up, and then he's not in a particular proper situation. So the constant chanting of the holy name has to go on, the performance of devotional service has to go on, but it has to go on under the guidance of the pure devotee of the Lord. It cannot be done independently, as the nectar of instruction is telling us. And the devotional service, those 6 things, one of the things that destroys devotional service is when one acts independently. This is in the third one. Atyahara prayasascha prajalpanyamagraha janasangascha lolamcha shadbir bhaktir vinashyati. I think it's in that one.
Number 2.
Nectar of instruction. 3. Okay. So, is it that one? Sorry. Number 2, yeah. So, rejecting the rules and regulations of Scripture and working independently or whimsically. So one cannot just work independently. One must work in accordance with Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. He must work under the pure devotees of the Lord who are giving the pure understanding of Scripture. Otherwise he is lost. Otherwise he is captured by his own mind, and that has to be a constant thing. Therefore, we must associate with the instructions of the spiritual master at all times and see how to apply those instructions in our lives, and see how we may be having ulterior motives, even though overall with our dress and with our situation and circumstance, externally it seems surrendered. So it means that we have to become a little bit conscious that there are desires within the heart that we're not aware of, that we have not given proper regard. Therefore we see Uddhava, he follows, and Krishna says, okay, you go to Badrika Ashrama, and he's following the instructions of the Lord. And he's always engaged in following the instructions of the Lord. And as Prabhupada says here, that the Lord and himself are identical. So when one becomes sincere in realizing, sincerity means to realize, humble means to realize that there is things within my heart that are not pure. If one is chanting and dancing and thinking, well, yes, this is pure, I'm always pure. And one is performing devotional service, well, yes, this is pure. Yes, my activities are pure. Then he's caught by illusion. He's caught by Maya. Then we think ourselves to be as one particular person. I said on the Vishnu Maya platform. Yes, I am pure. Yes, my activities are pure. Everything I do is pure. But we must understand that in our conditional state that we are contaminated by the desire of name, fame, adoration, distinction. The enjoyment mentality has not gone away. Otherwise, we would be on the platform of what Rupa Goswami says. When I chant the holy name of the Lord, I desire thousands of years, thousands of tongues. But when we chant the holy name of the Lord, when is my rounds finished? It's only been one round, God. Right? We walk around in this conversation, that conversation. Shivaram Maharaj says that, especially sometimes, especially those who cook, sometimes we go and we're chanting japa and we cook. This is bogus chanting. We're chanting and then we're having conversation. He says, this is not chanting, this is bogus chanting. And driving a car, we used to drive and chant. Bogus chanting, it's not chanting. You're not chanting the holy names. So we must see that if we are actually coming to a platform of becoming purified properly, then we are seeing attraction to the Lord. We're seeing attraction towards hearing, chanting. We're seeing the Lord as the only goal of our life. We're having complete faith in what the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita or in the Srimad Bhagavatam, or what the Acharya says, or what your spiritual master says. There's no other thought than that. That your mind becomes one with the instructions of the spiritual master. The instruction becomes one with your heart. That is when we know we're becoming purified, and the nature of when we become purified is we constantly go on thinking that we're unpurified, that I need to become purified. More and more and more. So it is important for us to always recognize that we are very far from pure devotional service, but we are lucky that we have a proper standard of pure devotional service being displayed to us by the Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, and then you'll see our own spiritual master and the devotees that may be there around us. It is not a distant thing. It is not far-fetched. It is right there. It is possible. You can hear it every day. We have the facilities to hear it and see it every day. See Srila Prabhupada through the memories of Srila Prabhupada here. We can hear your own spiritual master on the platform of pure devotional service. So we have an opportunity, just like Uddhava is following, we have the opportunity to follow, just like Uddhava. We have the opportunity right now to be able to follow in that mood of there's meeting with our own spiritual master when he comes, and still when he's there, he's continually giving lectures and there's meeting going on in that way. But there will be separation in which, the Vapu disappears or becomes unmanifested from this world. His pastimes become unmanifested, but it's not that, just like I was discussing in the beginning, these other people, they die, and the great personalities as well, Margot Jordan and whoever may be, their activities die and they die, and then we change our worshipper, or we forget that personality that we previously worshipped so much. It's not like that with the spiritual master. That separation and meeting, that meeting becomes qualified by that separation in the sense that one is constantly hearing from the spiritual master and performing devotional service to him. He is one's objective of one's worship with unmotivated and intense desire to please him. So that brings us to the level of purity. So Uddhava is in separation with his spiritual master here, with Krishna. Krishna is now, Uddhava is taking the position of this dasya rasa of service to the spiritual master. He's thinking like that. My spiritual master, Krishna, as the verse before, he's instructed me, therefore I'm carrying this instruction out. In separation. And we see so many Srila Prabhupada's disciples, I'm reading now in the 6th volume, of how when the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, most of them weren't close associates, but the distributors, the book distributors of Srila Prabhupada would feel as though that they're never separate from Srila Prabhupada. They were always with Srila Prabhupada. They had that vision, they had that intense feeling of meeting with Srila Prabhupada at every moment on book distribution. There was nothing separate for them. So when Srila Prabhupada left the planet, they continued distributing books, not feeling, of course there is, separation, because just like Uddhava was experiencing. But at the same time, simultaneous oneness, Achintya Veda Veda Tattva, simultaneous separation and oneness, that although Srila Prabhupada is left from our vision, he has not left from our vision. He's right here in these purports. As Srila Prabhupada himself said, I shall live forever in my books. And so we may not be able to have that same experience that Uddhava is having with the separation of the Lord, but we can experience this separation with the spiritual master, which is of the same quality. Sakshad Hari. He is the manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. And so Krishna is so merciful to us that he has allowed us to be able to experience that achintya, separation and oneness in relationship with the spiritual master. Acharya Mam Vijaniyam, who Krishna says is not different from me. And we can see that, even within our lives, although he's present within this world, there is still separation of distance from one place to another. This separation, oh man, I want to please my spiritual master. What service what is the most pleasing service to him? What is the most pleasing service to Srila Prabhupada?
Love Krishna.
That you love Krishna. That you love Krishna, that is what's most pleasing to the spiritual master. Yes, distributing books, yes, that is there. But that you love Krishna, that you can distribute books and you cannot love Krishna. You can distribute books and you can be completely materially motivated. You can completely have all of these different mixed devotional service within our heart. That is not particularly satisfying to the spiritual master. Spiritual master is satisfied when he sees his disciples engaged in the devotional service of the Lord in unalloyed devotion. He is satisfied in that way. When he sees that his disciples are chanting and dancing and honoring prasadam, not with the mood of enjoyment, but the mood of giving enjoyment to Krishna, then he is satisfied. Then he is really satisfied. So the natural mood of a devotee is to try to satisfy his master. As Prahlad says in the 7th canto, what is the use of a servant who desires something from his master? What kind of servant is that? What is the use of that servant? So the mood of a servant, and that we have to drill into our heads, is not at all of trying to get any sort of enjoyment for ourselves. But as a result of trying to just give enjoyment, that pleasure naturally comes, as Uddhava says, for the mad of want of pleasure of seeing him. Well, he's eager to see. But there is transcendental bliss that is derived out of that. And so one does not have to put on a show anymore. When we start to experience what is pure devotional service, there's no need for a show. Why do we need to put on a show? For who? Why? The spiritual master is satisfied, that means Krishna is satisfied, then who are you putting a show for? If we are putting on a show, it's clear that it's material. Because you're trying to satisfy someone else other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead or your spiritual master. So show-bottle devotional service does not please anyone. Actually, spiritual master is dissatisfied by this show. Therefore, we want to become genuine followers. We want to become genuine followers of the principles of devotional service, of the instructions of the spiritual master. No show. And Srila Prabhupada is another prime example of that. No show. It is what it is. Bhagavad Gita as it is, he is as he is. There's no show. There's nothing, no bottle. There's nothing. It's just straight. Vaishnava is what is inside, what is outside. Same thing, nothing different. That is a Vaishnava. Prabhupada said like that to his disciples. You should be like Vaishnava. You should the way you act, the way you think, it should be inside. What's inside should be outside. Inside should be Krishna consciousness. Outside should be Krishna consciousness. Now that outside we're Krishna conscious and inside we're, of demoniac nature. Outside we show to be very pure, and then internally we're relishing so many material things of this material world. So this is the platform of pure devotional service. This is the platform of Uddhava. He's completely dedicated. He's completely faithful. He has no other motive. But it is, for us, it's a very hard position to come to. But for the pure devotees of the Lord, it's a natural state. They never go away from that. But it's a blissful state. It is a foolish state to be in the other states. To think that those other states will facilitate pleasure in our life. It's a misconception. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada is pushing us. Unalloyed devotional service. That will satisfy you. That will make the whole world happy. Not our idea of what is pure devotional service. But what the pure standard is as set by the Acharya. So it is difficult to recognize these things. So they have to be pointed out in us by the spiritual master, by the Vaishnavas. And we must be ready to take those positions to understand that sometimes we are contaminated. Should be known we are contaminated. And should see how we are contaminated. We should try to see, we should be determined to see, as my spiritual master says, the Vaishnavas are determined to become humble. So then we should take that position, see, where am I wrong? Where am I wrong? What is my problem? What is my issue? And then we should inquire, how can I be better? So it is a great position to have shelter of the pure devotees of the Lord, to have shelter of the spiritual master, to have constant association of the Vaishnavas. Otherwise it would be finished, as we all know. And PDS, pure devotee syndrome, is a classic thing that we always have in our lives. And if there were not Vaishnavas around us to smash that, I would be right back, Punar Mushiko Bhava. Now become a mouse again, immediately. As we have experience, I have so much experience from my own life, and then seeing others, especially dealing in the Bhakta program, they come in and they think they're some great saints and criticize the other Vaishnavas, saying, oh look, he's not mature, they're not qualified to teach me. I want somebody more qualified to teach me. And then they leave for one day, and then what is their position? Punarmushiko Bhava. Again captured by Maya. Thinking they're so great. Oh yes, I can become a pure devotee faster than all of these people around. All I need is a great person to guide me. Yeah, that's true. But then you've made the first offense to the holy names. You've lost it all. You don't understand. So we don't understand. We are blinded by our own false ego, even within pure devotional service. So then we can pray to Krishna We can pray to Krishna to become purified, as my spiritual masters say, as if you dare. If you dare to pray like that you become purified. Because Krishna will humble us, will smash us, will put us in situations which we really don't want to be in. We're averse to those situations. But we should not be averse to those situations, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says. And we should not be averse to the situations that push us forward in devotional service. We should not become discouraged. We should become encouraged. We should see, oh, the Lord is putting me in trouble. And we should see, Tatenu Kampam Susikshamano. We should have that vision, and Srila Prabhupada again and again and again emphasizes, not just by his words in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but by his example throughout his whole life. So, coming to the platform of pure devotional service is not cheap, because what you experience on the platform of pure devotional service is also not cheap. It is very, very high. So we have to take shelter. We have to become humbled. We have to see where is our faults, where is my, where are my anarthas, where are my issues. But when we can start to see like that, then the Lord will help us. The Lord will help us when we are sincere to try to become humble, when we're trying to serve with a pure attitude, with the idea of becoming pure, although we may not be pure, then Krishna will give us guidance in order to come to the platform of pure devotional service, and that guidance primarily takes shape from the instructions of another Vaishnava. Otherwise, don't think that it's just all internal and it's Krishna's instructing me from within. Then that's another foolish idea. Yes, Krishna is there within your heart, but there's so many other nonsense in your heart. So, in my heart. So, it is a constant constant principle of our lives to always look at ourselves in the position, as even our great acharyas do, of a fallen conditioned soul. Never in the position of a Vaishnava, never in the position of an advanced Vaishnava, one who is thinking himself to be fully Krishna conscious. So you should see how, Uddhava is thinking like that, our acharyas are thinking like that. So we should be ready to take shelter of the instructions and be guided by that. And then we'll see in time, by being patient, as this nectar instruction, by being patient, by being confident in devotional service, by endeavoring with a lot of enthusiasm, there will be that point in where there is that separation and meeting simultaneously going on, our 12 years of separation or more. And at the same time, because we're thinking of Krishna, there is meeting, constant. How is that understandable? I don't know. I don't have experience. We have some experience. I'm sure everybody has some experience of meeting with the spiritual master, being separate from the spiritual master, being out of those who are distributing books profusely, the meeting with the spiritual master and distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. Often we don't even meet, for me at least, is not when I distribute Prabhupada's books, I feel the presence of my own spiritual master more than Srila Prabhupada's presence. That is there. But because my service is to my Srila Prabhupada saying, the service is not different from meeting with Krishna. So my service to my spiritual master, who is Bhaktivikasa Swami, feeling the presence of the spiritual master, that is there. I had a glimmer, not that it's like, that always, because it's so much full of self-motive. But when we experience that, we know, okay, this is where we're trying to come to constantly, but it takes over and it's a pull back and forward. But yeah, we should endeavor in this way. Going on distributing books, chanting the holy name of the Lord purely, doing service in a pure way, ultimately loving Krishna, satisfying the spiritual master, satisfying Krishna himself. Okay, is there any questions or comments? Please feel free to ask. Anything? Anything at all? Yeah. Okay, Charandeep and then David. Charandeep? Yeah. Quick, sorry, I go on way too long.
Prabhu, after distributing books on any given day, we post scores and stuff, and there is nature inherently to enjoy the score. Um,
Really?
so, how do we, see it as a service to Krishna and Guru?
I mean, that's why we announce it to Krishna in the morning. That's why this is the way I say it. We like to post the scores on the Krishna life, Sankirtan, because we like to give enjoyment to the Lord, and then we distribute it for others to see how the Lord is enjoyed. So the scores are there to be announced in the morning to Radha Shamsundar, Krishna Balaram, Gaurnitai, Nrsimhadev, and Panchatattva. And all the Sambhu devotees of that. And all the Sambhu Vaishnava, Gaura Bhakta Vrindas. So you shouldn't see how books are coming, oh wow, any ordinary books are distributed, you're like, whoa. Imagine you went and sold out some mundane books, it wouldn't be like, But it's facilitating for how nicely is the Lord going to enjoy this tomorrow? How nicely is my spiritual master? Just like we see when he's here. Big book scores, you can see we have videos. Guru Maharaj, big bright smile. That's pleasurable. You get real enjoyment out of that. It's so much small enjoyment trying to enjoy a book score. I don't know how much, oh wow, yes, we did. Yeah. But it's more pleasurable to see the Lord pleased. To see the spiritual master pleased. It's nice, right? Everybody can say, everybody looks forward to the morning when, we can't see, we may say, well, I can't see Krishna happy and all of this, but when the spiritual master is right there and we're announcing the scores and he's completely pleased, that is more satisfying than anything else in the whole of existence. So that's how you should see it. You should see how how much pleasure this is going to give to my spiritual masters to see that there's such a nice score. And at the end of a good book distribution day or a bad book distribution day, but generally we become a little puffed up at the end of a good book distribution day. At the end of a book distribution day, if it's a bad book distribution day, naturally we're praying, oh my God, Lord save me. But at the end of a good book distribution day, we may walk around a little more, pumped to our step. It's like, yeah, I did good. Walk back in the ashram, it's like, yeah, all right. Expect everyone to, everyone's going crazy. So we may see things like that. But our primary mood is, it's like, immediately after we've done good on book distribution, it should be immediately offering the scores to the spiritual master in our minds, not trying to enjoy it at all. But we're conditioned, so in this state that is there, but we should have that aim. It's not that I keep trying to enjoy my scores, so I just won't do big and then, I won't try to enjoy it. But the point is that one should have a proper vision, like that. Okay, is that okay? David?
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
My question is about the point that you made that us being a show battle spiritualist is not pleasing to anyone, basically. I was just wondering that we are not coming immediately to the pure devotional platform, so it's somewhat inherent to be in that stage that maybe some impurities or like a demoniac enjoying mentality is there, but externally you don't show that. So what is the transition? What is that brings us to the platform of pure devotion service? Just hearing and chanting, and eventually we will get there, and just the desire to get there. How is it?
Yeah, the hearing and chanting, but that has to be done with the desire to become purified. You can go on hearing and chanting your whole life, but if we're not particularly desirous to make advancement, become purified, then you'll just remain where you are. We've seen that many times. So many devotees read so many books and do so many things, and or even we've met people that have read all of Prabhupada's books but have a Mayavadi conception. So hearing and chanting, yeah, but it must be done with proper understanding, with this what we call vichar, with internalizing what we're reading and then really applying it to our lives. Jnana, vijnana, applying it, not just, it's pure, like I was saying, it is purifying, but the effect takes place when the living entity desires to advance in Krishna consciousness. when he desires to become pure, when he develops that intensity, tivra bhakti, then he starts to purify. So yeah, then that has to be there, that tivra, that one-pointed attention, as we're seeing, those three qualifications to come to the platform of pure devotion service. One, that he sees Krishna as his only object of life. He has faith, and he has no other motivation. So yeah, hearing and chanting with the qualification of desiring to become purified, not thinking one is already pure, then the hearing and chanting will not take proper effect. The medicine has to be taken properly. And so like that, yeah. So yeah, it's just, that may be there, but that will purify us. Yeah, hearing from the pure devotee, following the instructions of the pure devotee, and then we're trying to cultivate that mood and attitude that the pure devotee is shown by his achar, vichar, and prachar. He's preaching his own internal Krishna consciousness and his activities. So like that. Yeah. Anything else? Tapas, Prabhu?
This is kind of a silly kind of question, but it's like, me and Abhimanyu the other day were joking about this. Like, it's the same like if you have boga and you offer it to Krishna, and then it's like, and if you take the prasadam, you can't like actually like judge it, or like I don't like this prasadam, or I don't like this. Is that like kind of like similar to like if we offer the book scores, etc., and then like some devotees like make jokes about like, whether if you did like 1 bhakti stack or whatever, or like 2 bhakti stacks, it's like, oh, you can't like say nothing about it because it's like, it's already Krishna already like, it's already offered and something like that,
I don't know how to even answer that. It's like, I don't know what I mean. I think that's like a overall just like a cultural kind of thing. I don't think somebody's going, I don't like that you distributed 1 bhakti stack. I think it's like more from a platform of like, okay, you gotta encourage, but it's not like really like a question. Anyways, okay, anything else? Anybody would like to say anything in comments or anything? No? Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Kripa sindhu bhyo patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.